everyone. Thanks so much for coming out tonight to Darien Library. I'd like to welcome you here. My name is Erin and I'm the head of adult programming here at the library. And I'd like to briefly mention that programs at Darien Library are made possible by our annual Friends of the Library campaign. So thank you so much for your continued support to make programs like these available to the community. And just to give you a little story about our library and what's going to happen tonight is a few months ago I was reading, I believe it was Darien Times, and it was about a mother-daughter duo in town who were creating this new company that was going to teach women how to get financially organized. And in the article, it mentioned that they actually came up with the idea for this business while they were at the library during Hurricane Irene. And as you know, we recently had another weather event that had the entire town at the library. We stayed open late, and I just loved reading this because I was like, oh, it's kind of like we're an incubator. We're a think tank for new ideas. And people are actually building businesses out of things that come at the library. So I tweeted about it from the Darien Library account. I was like, how cool is this? They came up with their idea right here. And then Susan got in contact with me and she's like, you know what, we should do a program at the library. This is where it started. And I was like, yes, that is an excellent idea. So I would like to present to you Susan Bruno. She is, are you the CEO? What is your title of Diva CEO?
Co-founder.
Co-founder with her daughter, who actually is in Austin, Texas right now, probably eating delicious Tex-Mex food. But we have Susan here, and she's one of the co-founders of Diva CFO, and she's going to tell you more about that and tell us all how to get a little bit more financially organized. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Erin. Well, I have to tell you, this was like seamless on our part. Erin is amazing. This library is amazing. I grew up in town. I actually went to homeschool. Then I went to St. Thomas More. Many of you probably don't even know there was a school there. And then I went back to homeschool, then to Middlesex, and then Darien High School. And I have two children. And actually, my husband and my husband's parents were raised in this town, so we have a long history here. And my background is I'm a CPA financial planner, and I work with, I started at Deloitte and then went to Pricewaterhouse, and I work with very wealthy families as their CFO. You may have heard the term family office. And unless you have $250 million or more, I would not recommend setting up a family office and hiring experts in all different areas. So what we do is we come in and help the families. But what I realized for 27 years, the women weren't showing up. And it was really upsetting to me because they didn't show up until the 5 Ds occurred, which is death, divorce, disability, disaster, or debt. And then they'd be, you know, needing a meeting immediately because they were in tears because one of these events happened. And I was trying to drag them into the meetings before then, or they were a new client and one of these things happened. So, you know, for the years that I've been working, and as a CPA, you kind of have to be comfortable just working with men all the time because it's a man's world. Finance is still a man's world. But I really was trying to understand where I was just at a loss. And finally, my daughter, who's 23, said to me, Mom, it's so obvious. It's just so boring. And it's so loaded with jargon. It's so intimidating. Don't you get it? And, you know, when I was, you guys will get a kick out of this. When I was at St. John's School, there were 4 in my family in 3.5 years. So my mother had babies, boom, 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 no twins. And she was trying to get rid of us in the summertime. So Jack Cunningham, who's now, you know, he's still over at St. John's, was a teacher there, and he was a math teacher. So I think I was between 4th and 5th grade, and my mother was like signing us up for anything to get rid of us. And sure enough, Jack Cunningham grabbed onto me, and I loved math. So to me, like, I never understood that it's kind of like a man's or a boy's thing to like math. I just thought it was normal until I had a daughter, and she was like, ugh, I hate this. So then I started to understand more, and she, you know, I would criticize her because she would be, you know, wanting to read kind of pop culture magazines and watching television shows that I thought were horrible, until I realized if this is the way to capture women to take control of their finances and basically eliminate the jargon and make it really fun and interesting and playful and a platform that's non-threatening, I think we're onto something. So we were actually here charging phones during a hurricane, and this was probably pre-Irene. It's probably the one just before that. And we were charging, and we were in the children's section. I used to take the kids to the library. Obviously, this is a new library than where I took my children. But I said, we have to build an app, because the first step to financial security isn't for you guys who aren't involved in finance to know what a stock derivative is. It's to really get your life organized. And what I realize with my clients, which is really strange, is the first 6 months, and I do mean 6 months, I give them a list of things to find, and they have to go find them. And it's shocking how long it takes, that they don't know where their homeowner's policy is, where their trust that they executed 10 years ago is. It's amazing. So the first thing we do, and I did a women's group once, and we said, well, it's no different than a scavenger hunt. Let's just create in the app, and I don't know how many of you are familiar with Foursquare, but it's this really cool way, and the kids use it, where you check in to different locations, and you get points, and you can be like the mayor of that store. It's really silly, but the idea, at least I think it's silly, the idea is that you get rewarded along the way as you, for example, if you check into one of the major retailers at the mall, you'd get a 10% off coupon if you checked in. So I was like, oh, okay, we can make a scavenger hunt. We'll tell you, there's basically 3 steps. It's find it, and in this case, learn it, and then file it. So pretty simple. We'll give you, just as I tell my clients, each document that you need to find, learn, and file. And so that's how the app got developed, because people always ask me, why did you build this as an app? It's so different. And this is, all credit to my creative daughter. It's the first personal filing cabinet that will fit in your purse. And that's where the concept came. So now I'm going to back up a little bit. First of all, how many people here have an iPhone or an iPad? Wow, a good amount. If you don't worry. If you don't wear skirt, don't worry. Because what we're finding is a lot of men are following this blog, because when we present the blog posts, they're actually I don't want to say gender neutral. They may bias a little bit on certain topics that say, gee, women, you should get going on saving for your retirement. But the idea is we have a lot of men following. And you can see when you follow the post, and the graphics may be more geared towards women. Where did the blog come from? Well, we decided to build an app until we hired a local app developer who had no clue what we were doing. They went. Then we hired our second app developer in Austin, Texas, who stole $35,000 from us 3 weeks after we gave him the money. It's the Wild West. The third app developer is a woman we found in Boulder, Colorado, who basically saved us. So in the meantime, my daughter said, well, Mom, I just graduated from college, and I was kind of counting on this as a job. So could I maybe blog on this? And I was like, what? I don't even know what a blog is. So what's come out of that is this really amazing, powerful information site that takes bite-sized pieces of information. For example, today's blog is, what is the difference between a value and a growth stock? But when you read it, you're not going to be intimidated by the language that's being used in it. So we call it our sister blog to our app. So I'll give you now a better idea. For those of you who don't use an iPhone or an iPad, you will see we're going to cover how to get organized financially without using an iPhone or an iPad. Okay, I'm going to be tech savvy here. So the idea of Diva CFO, where did the name come from? Diva, obvious, and we'll talk a little more, but CFO, my daughter actually thought CFO stood for Chief Financial Organizer. I said, perfect, that's great, because I believe that no matter what I do for my clients, for, in these, ultra wealthy families, all they care about is they're finally organized. It's the weirdest thing. And so there's huge value, and then, think about the ease. When you can put your fingers on something at home, you need it. I don't care whether it's the salt shaker or your umbrella or an important document. If you can put your hands on it quickly, you have that kind of sense of, oh, wow, isn't this great? Like the simple things in life. If you can do that in your financial life, again, find, learn, and file, you're going to be like light years away and step towards financial security. And we'll explain why in my experience. So this is Stephanie. Excuse me. That's Stephanie. She's 23. She has a communications degree from the University of San Francisco, so she's one of the few Darienites that went all the way to California. And she now lives in Austin, Texas, because she hates the heat, the cold in New England. Our mission, basically, you can see there, is to educate and empower women with financial knowledge through an innovative and truly fun, playful, non-threatening platform, but using organization, and that's how we actually differentiate ourselves. Even though you may learn things along the way, our foundation is through organization. It's through really saying, you've got to do this first, and once you're organized, you're going to feel much better. Our blog is divacfo.com. It's free. We have a weekly newsletter. If you want to sign up for the daily blog, so you know when a new blog post is there, you'll find that. There's no advertising except at the very bottom. Do you know what Google AdSense is? It's kind of creepy. It's like you go and look. Let's say you're looking for a trip to Jamaica. And the next time you sign on to a website, it follows you. And it actually knows that you were looking for that trip to Jamaica. So it's going to keep reminding you about airfares and things. Well, anyway, they pay people to do that. So we were like, okay, well, it's what you guys are looking for anyway. And they pay us like 30 cents or something silly. It's not, we don't make a lot of money on it. But so right now, the business is actually funded by myself, my husband, and 2 other investors, one of whom was here. And we have no advertising, we have no product to sell, nothing. This is all pure information. And every topic that we blog on, you may not find it's applicable to you. So for example, there was one great topic, how do I speak to my elderly parents about money? And you may say, well, I don't have that issue. But I can forward that and immediately could hit an email button and send it on to someone else. So, and what we found, this is really crazy. There's a lot of women in this space right now trying to educate other women. There's a fabulous woman who was hoping to be here tonight who wrote My Money Matters, Galia Guichon, I think is how you pronounce her name. She's in Westport. She was real simple, did a really good article on getting organized, and she's one of the women listed there. And what's crazy about it is, I'm 50 years old, and we all like competed against each other. Women aren't doing that anymore, and I didn't realize this in the sense that my daughter said, no, we're I said, Steph, she's a competitor. No, Mom, that's not how it works, and that's the truth. So this is, like, right now, an amazing extension of what we're all doing to try and get women to get into the game before the 5 Ds occur. So this is a sample of what the website looks like. You guys can go on. It's free. As a matter of fact, if you want to get the newsletters, we have, do you use email? No? Mm-hmm. Okay. Yes? Email? Yes. Okay. Mm-hmm. You can put your name in here, and then if you want to use an iPad, maybe the first time, it's pretty easy to use. And then there's a one-pager on what the app looks like. So we'll capture, and you guys will get emails, and you can delete us out. We're not going to sell. We actually tell you we're not going to give anyone. People ask us, will you give us your list? No, that's not what we're doing. Okay, so that's kind of who we are, and why this is so cool is because of my daughter, not me. But what I'm bringing to the table, I'm the typical CFO, and yes, she is the typical diva. I think she thought in college jeans actually did have to cost $200, which I forgot. So we mixed the two together, and that's how we were trying to juxtapose that and make this really different and fun. So, you know, we came up with divas don't have to be ditzy, and finance doesn't have to be dull. And that's unfortunately what people considered in the past. So, okay, we talked about the 5 Ds, and again, this sort of fun, playful wording. You might think it's something else, but it's not. And this, what we did when we first started, we wanted real life stories. We're trying to encourage people to share their actual stories, so other people would say, if only I knew. So for example, the disability story, and this is not sharing confidential information, is Obie Harrington. So Beth shared with us that Obie's experience, for those of you who don't know, was in a terrible accident, dove into, he was at Jones Beach and dove into a wave, and the wave dissipated, and he is paralyzed. And they actually have a fabulous foundation for paralysis victims. And she said to me, you know what, I gotta tell you right now, and she wrote the blog post, the only reason why they can afford to live here is because they bought disability insurance. So then, this is one of the things, we'll send you on, you know, your scavenger hunt to find disability. So whoever's working, should have disability insurance if you're young and haven't, you're not in retirement and have saved for retirement. Well, what is that? And so we explain in the blog a little bit more, but that's kind of a red flag. Gee, if I'm dependent upon someone who is earning and bringing in, what if they became disabled? So this is a real life story. We don't sell disability insurance through Diva. That's not something, I don't even sell it, but we want to encourage people to understand the risk. It's not that you necessarily have to, in any of these categories, transfer that risk through insurance, but it's acknowledging that you at least know about it. Because Beth tells a funny story about, she had a friend who wanted to test his CFP pitch on selling disability insurance, and they did it kind of around the kitchen table in December. In January, they didn't buy it. In January, Obi actually checked the box at work for open enrollment for disability insurance, and it was July 4th that his accident occurred. So, that's obviously an extreme, but understand, if you are financially dependent upon someone, you need to understand the risks you're taking. Death, there's a lovely young woman in town, relatively new to town, and her husband died at 35. She was running the Stanford Bennett Cancer Center development for a while, Erin O'Toole, and she shares her story in there, where she had, her husband had brain cancer and actually had several years to help get everything together. So we had real life stories. One of my best friends was on the 89th floor at World Trade, and she did make it out. And so coming down, she's saying, okay, where's this? And do I have life insurance? And do I have a will? And those are the things that we don't want you to be doing at that moment. Clearly not. So what we did, and I'll just make this quick, for the month of September, it's actually National Preparedness Month. Most people don't know this. But we came up with 5 tips to be prepared financially. Normally, I wouldn't put this in this presentation, but for what just happened. So I had 7 feet of water. We live on Holly Pond, so my house has got significant damage. I have all my documents in the cloud. So for those of you who don't embrace the cloud because of security issues, stop worrying about the security issues and start worrying about what you don't have or don't know you don't have because you haven't gone through this exercise. I'm more worried about that than security in the cloud. So, and we're going to talk about what am I even talking about? What is the cloud? And we'll talk more about that. But this message, you hear about people literally drawing out their homeowners or flood policy in the backyard so they now know what they can go and claim. Well, you know what? It's a lot easier if you had prepared, and this is not a criticism because most people haven't. You had prepared, known what your deductible was, known what you've got, at least have the document quickly available at your fingertips. So our first tip, actually this came from my experience in New York on 9/11. We couldn't get food. We were in Times Square, and the credit card machines didn't work and the ATMs were empty. So my belief is that everybody should keep $100 folded up and tucked into their wallet. Because whether it was gas during this recent experience that you needed to get quickly and they didn't take credit cards, whatever reason, everybody should always have that. I actually had a friend who was, believe it or not, in Fairfield, at a gas station, not a gas station, a parking lot, was held up by gunpoint. And she said, thank God I had money in my purse because I got rid of them. And a lot of us don't carry money anymore. So carry $100 if you can afford it, tuck it up. And I say $100 bill, and the reason why is you're not likely to spend it. That it's going to not be that 20 that you just use for Starbucks or whatever. And then most obvious that you guys know for preparedness is to have 3 to 6 months living expenses. And I don't mean build in your vacation money, because obviously if you were in an emergency, in a situation where someone lost their job or where something has happened, you're going to focus on the core fixed expenses that you have to cover, food, housing, and everything else. Make sure that if you're setting aside your money for your safety net, that's the first thing that you do. Don't start investing the money until you have enough in cash to save you. The next is, and this actually ties right back to the app and to the cloud, find your will. If you don't have one, get one. And a estate plan is more than just a will. If you have minor children, absolutely have a will. And I look at it, and my rule of thumb for my clients is 5 years or major event in their life. So 5 years meaning tax law might have changed, let's take a look at it. where are you at? Or, you know, a baby was born, someone has passed away. So the find it part is go find it. Learn it means read it. My husband, I don't think, ever read our will. He just signed it because of what I do for a living. And the attorney's like, no, you actually have to read this thing. So he's the opposite of, you know. But, and then file it. And file it means, as we're going to get on a little bit further, the list of all the documents. It's okay. I mean, I'm not here tonight to sell you our $4.99 app. I'm here to tell you what it takes, like literally give you that checklist to say, if I'm going to leave a legacy to someone and I pass away, or you as a couple for your children, or work with your parents. This is what we need to set up a filing system. If you can take it that one step further, as a matter of fact, Erin is going to talk about using the free resources at the library to be able to scan your documents for free if you don't have an office where they have a scanner. The library has it, and then set up a Dropbox account. Dropbox is actually free. How many people here are familiar with Dropbox? Okay, so a handful. It's a fabulous picture. What is the cloud? The cloud is, you know, I'm not an IT professional by any means, but the concept is it's a large server that exists somewhere that has all kinds of security around it. So remember the days of the hard drive that sat in your office, and if water came or a fire or anything, there went your. This is literally, they call it the cloud because it's virtually existing somewhere on a server, but not a server that you have exposure to if your house burns down. So there's allocated space in Dropbox for everyone to open an account. And the hope is, with Dropbox, that you will actually exceed your capacity that they give you for free so that you will start paying them. And believe it or not, when we went through our development stage, Apple almost stopped us in development because we integrated with Dropbox, because we wanted you guys to have a space to save your documents in the cloud for free. But the fact that you could turn on and pay Dropbox, they almost stopped us from using it. And thankfully, our app developer figured out how to do it. Our integration with Dropbox is completely seamless. So instead of that hard drive that sits in your, you know, on your laptop or in your office that is exposed to elements, it's literally, yes, it is somewhere. No, you don't have to be worried. They're tested regularly. Dropbox would be out of business if they. And it's kind of fun when you start saving documents and you go, oh, all those photos, videos, or DVDs of the kids, all that stuff, you can pretty much just put up in the cloud. And then, here's the best part. It's accessible from anywhere in the world. So one of my favorite features favorite features, my mother lives in town still. She's 75. I travel a lot, and my mother and I are very close. So I'm traveling, and she ends up in the emergency room. You know what? They're not going to talk to me because I need a HIPAA release to be able to speak to her doctors. So what's a HIPAA release? Well, it's in our scavenger hunt, so you could go and find it. We actually give you a free resource, too, because my sister's a healthcare attorney, so we'll tell you, okay, you're down, push this button, sign the thing, and you're done. Now, I encourage you to use a trusted state's attorney, but if you can't afford it, it's fine. It means that I have the ability to speak with my mother's doctor, and so that, you know, I'm in the Caribbean and my mother's in the Stanford Hospital. I say, oh, what's your email address? And from that very moment, it actually will, you know, 30 seconds later, they'll be able to talk to me. And that's important for those of us who fall within the sandwich generation, where we're responsible for our kids and we're responsible for our parents. It's a lot. The other thing we built into this app is the ability to remind you. It'll remind you to make your insurance payments, your tax payments. It'll remind you to renew your passport a year in advance. So these push notifications will come through. It depends on what you want to make of it when you start using the app. So we'll show you. This estate plan fire drill, I got off mark, but this is one of my things that I'm really passionate about, especially, again, parents with young children, people who think that their estates aren't big enough. Don't believe that. Get a will done. Don't leave your legacy to the kids who are going to fight over, you know, the silver. Okay. One of my tests during this period of time, this September National Preparedness Month, is in our Find It, Learn It, File It. Here are all the copies of the insurance policies you should find. And notice we highlighted homeowners and flood. Kathy, right? One of our experts is here on property and casualty insurance. And the idea is people assume, oh, insurance is so expensive. It's expensive until you need it. So if you have, and I sat down with a young client recently and we decided what is their budget for insurance? I mean, what's their discretionary budget? So we went through, and he acknowledged he needed disability insurance. And then he needed life insurance. And they have a home, so they need a home. So we went through the whole budget. We changed deductibles. We reviewed, can you get less expensive life insurance through work? Is that life insurance really a savings plan for kids' education too? So it's not in your insurance dollars? So we went through the whole plan. But my point here is, don't just buy the policy or contract and assume that it does what it does, but also be able to put your fingers on it when you need it. Flood insurance and homeowners insurance are a big question right now. For those of us who got flooded, FEMA has not shown up yet. Maybe for some of you they have. We're kind of assuming they're going to come on Monday actually to our house. But we pay a lot of money for flood insurance. Had we not had that, our homeowners policy wouldn't, they cover winds basically. So at least we know, because we've been in the same house for 27 years. So if we say Goldilocks, not too much, not too little, just right. And these are the health documents I was talking about. This is part of your scavenger hunt. These are the documents that are critical that you have. And I'll tell you, how many people here have college-age kids? Do you know what HIPAA releases for your college-age child? My daughter ended up in the emergency room. Nobody would talk to me. She's 3,000 miles away.
Can I just ask a question? If you have a medical power of attorney, I, for instance, have medical power of attorney for my mom, do I also need the HIPAA release? Because the medical power of attorney seems to give me everything I possibly could want and more.
That's a very good question. And the only reason why I know the difference, because I'm not an attorney, I'm a CPA, is my sister's a healthcare attorney. That's exactly what I asked her to blog about. So there's a blog on, let's see which date. You know what, if you just type in HIPAA release, it'll tell you the difference, but I'll tell you what it is. A medical power of attorney and a living will, so you know they're separate, but many times the documents are combined, or when someone's incapacitated. Not necessarily on their deathbed, they can't speak for themselves. So your medical power of attorney would step in. So you can speak for your mom because she can't speak for herself. You're there as her advocate. A HIPAA release is, I'm calling Dr. Smith. I want to discuss my mother's situation. Not necessarily that you're going to be able to talk to them because your mother isn't that critically ill at that point.
Could a legal document combine those two? Because the thing that I just read appears that I could talk to the doctors. I was about to send it out to them so I could talk. What I need is the HIPAA release.
Exactly. And go onto our blog and just type in, there's a search bar on the top. And my sister actually went to, she used the ABA, the American Bar Association website that has the standard forms, state specific. Print out the standard form, have your mom sign it, you're good. If you have both, I'm always kind of into overkill, it's free, have both and send both through. For our kids, you know, they end up in the emergency room. That's so weird because they're still dependent on us, and yet nobody tells you when you send them off to college, like, by the way, you need this form. Some of the colleges are getting better on it, and for FERPA, they're very similar. HIPAA and FERPA, and that is, can I get my kids' grades because I'm paying that $55,000 of tuition? No, you can't, unless you tell them to sign off on something. It's the exact same thing for HIPAA, but they're not promoting it the way they should. And that's, let's face it, it's a bigger issue. If they flunk out of a class or get seriously injured, the seriously injured is more important. The other thing for, whether it's for ourselves, our children, or our parents, is to always have a list of current medication. And this is something I have in Diva Docs for my mother. So she ends up again in Stanford Hospital and I'm traveling. The first thing they're going to ask you when she lands, post 53, picks her up, what's your mother on? I don't know. Well, imagine pulling out your iPhone, it's right there. It's not the piece of paper hanging on the fridge at home or in your file at home. It's right at your fingertips. So we encourage people to use this app for every single thing that they need to say. We have double password protected it. We have no access to your information whatsoever, none. So it's funny, we're here talking about financial planning, and yet we spend so much time talking about, estate planning, but it is a big part of just getting organized. So for those of you who aren't ready to embrace the cloud or are, but maybe you just want to start without using your iPhone because you're concerned about security. Go to, you know what a printable is? Etsy has lots of fun. Etsy's a fun website, 3 cool things on it. And one of the things people, ETSY, Etsy. ETSY, yeah. And so let's say you came up with a really cool grocery store shopping list that just happened to be formatted neat and you're a graphic artist. You can throw it on Etsy, create an Etsy shop, and sell the printable of that. So people are putting really neat things on there. So the word printable came from there. So if you go to the toolbar on the top of our website and just go to printables, you'll find the Diva Survival Guide. And the Survival Guide, again, we're all about organization, is every single thing we think that you should get your hands on. But before you file it away, and you can set up your filing cabinet with this, before you file it away, read it. Take out that yellow highlighter from your high school kid or from the junk drawer and start highlighting it. Gee, does this do what I think? A perfect example, when we get into life insurance, is who is the beneficiary of this policy? Is it trust owned? Did we buy this insurance before the 3rd child was born? That's the kind of stuff. Get in the game, but don't assume it's this big, long complexity of learning, investment strategies. So go to our divacfo.com and printables. It's free. We don't charge, unlike Etsy. We don't charge for you guys to print it. And this is the same document, a little bit different format. I mean, I don't give my clients things with pink and green and diamonds, but maybe some of them would actually like it that way. Okay. So this is actually what our app looks like. We worked with a group here in Darien called 341 Studios, 341. They're fabulous. And the first thing they said to us was you need original icons. So we came up with really cool graphics. We think they're really funny, cool. Maybe some of the men here find them objectionable, but fun and playful. That's what we wanted to do, was create a scavenger hunt that's fun and playful. So this is what it will look like. The first time you open it up on your iPhone, you're going to have to answer. You have to set up your own passwords, your own safety words. Nothing comes to us. You have the choice of whether you want to share your email address with us or not. Doesn't matter to us. At some point, you guys are going to say, how is she making money? Is this like a charity thing? Right now it is. And I'll tell you in a little bit of what our idea is. But okay, so the app, again, the concept created here in the children's section of the library was Find It, Learn It, File It, because of the 5 Ds. So again, this is the format of it, and we'll go through each of those, as you guys would imagine who have iPhones, as you push one of the icons, and it will lead you to fill in the information. So it's kind of a game, and I'll tell you the easiest way to start it. Okay, so these are our 9 categories. We spent a lot of time figuring out what kind of information is critical for you to gather and make it fun. So obviously you see all the Diva names, and we tried to do a lot of alliteration, but failed at one point. So Diva Essentials, I will tell you this is an honest to God true story. My husband and I were traveling, and my son chose, he just didn't want to come with us, and we were going abroad at the time. And at the last minute he said, oh, Mom, I really want to come. He was probably 14. And my daughter was off at camp. It was in the summertime. And as it turns out, I called American. We were leaving the next day. You can get a flight on miles. Pulled out his passport, and it had expired. So I'll never let that happen again. It was really unfortunate for him not to be able to go on that particular trip, or any. So what we did is we actually put the expiration. So if you guys when you go into it, you'll see it prompts you to enter your expiration date. And then in the case of passport, because as many of you know, passport typically needs to be renewed at least 6 months before, it'll remind you to do it. So we'll never have that problem again. All of your essential information will be stored and saved right in the Diva Essentials. Diva Dough will tell you, go get a copy. Again, we're not having you analyze the information. It's just getting copies. Why? Because then you'll have account information. You'll have the contact link. You'll know what's in, at least what's in the account, how much is there. That is a surprise for a lot of people. So Diva Debt is, you want to have access to a list of all your credit card information, your mortgage information. It reminds you to pay your mortgage. Diva Dwellings, your homeowners policy. Maybe the recent appraisal of your home is something you'll put in there. Diva Doctor, again, we talked a lot about that. What's the critical information? It's medicine, all the things we talked about. Also just having like all your specialists, or all your kids' specialists. I mean, it's hard, who's the orthopedic guy? I can't remember. You open it up, it's right there. Now we all use Outlook and different things, but it's a good way to keep it. Destinations, car, boat, tax. Last year's tax returns literally will be at your fingertips because you'll scan them in and then you get to throw it all out. That's the best part. Legal, we talked about living wills and wills, and then Diva Defense is any insurance-related document. So these are all the areas where we said, what is all the information we have to gather, and let's break it down into bite-sized pieces. So if this looks like any of your home offices, that's what we want to eliminate. And I'm going to tell you what's scarier than this pile. What's scarier than this pile is what's not in the pile that you don't even know. So HIPAA release, for example, is not even in that pile to be filed because you didn't even know you needed it. So that's the scary part, is we've got so much going on in our lives, you cannot imagine the stress that's eliminated when you either paper file it or use the app and have it at your fingertips. And again, we talked about where you can get the printable. So as I said, my daughter came up with the concept. Yeah?
I'd love to throw out my own tax return, but I think you guys will keep them for 7 years. Is that just an electronic version or?
Yes. Good question. It's typically 3. It's 3 to 7, depending on whether you have your own business or whatnot. Once you electronically file them, you can shred them. I would not put them in garbage, but you can shred them. Any critical backup for them, I would also scan. The beauty of this is you've got this big pile of mess. You're going to have so much fun shredding this stuff, but you literally can get rid of it. Now you have to have comfort that when you embrace the cloud, so you may want to do a local hard drive or thumb drive version and the cloud, but personally I would have no problem with just doing it in the cloud. The other thing I would recommend is any tax return, if you bought or sold a home or major asset, just keep that 1 year in addition to the other years. So you can see it, everything is at your fingertips. Okay, so I'm going to do this briefly, and then we're going to let Erin talk about how you actually scan, because conceptually that's what people have a hard time with. Okay, I'm going to get my iPhone out, but as soon as I can find it. Okay, so you've got this, and we all know that this comes with a camera. So, and it comes with a keyboard. Keyboard isn't really easy to use, so if you actually own an iPad, it's almost easier to enter this information. It syncs, so you don't, you've got basically access to the documents in the cloud from either. My fun way of doing this, to start, you download the app, it's $4.99. For those of you who are curious, Apple keeps 30% of the revenue. So we make nothing. So that's what we do. Okay, we download it. Now, this is an example. In this case, I had my son do this. He's 19. He's not afraid of doing something that's girly looking. And I said, okay, honey, dump out your wallet. Just don't show me some face or in there. Dump out your wallet. And we're going to... Okay, hi, that's... Okay, so what does a 19-year-old have? He's got his college ID. He's got his driver's license. He's got his health insurance card. He's got his emergency credit card. And whatever else kids have. Okay, so we sat there, took us 15 minutes, dumped his wallet out, he entered all the information in Diva Essentials and took a picture of it. So now he had a picture of his health insurance card, he had a picture of his driver's license, he knows when they expire, he knows the contact. Oh, it's great. So we did it, he's humoring me, we'll do that. He knows we'll make $4.99, or his sister will. So we enter. So the first week he's back at school and he's in Boston. And he says, "Mom, I have a sinus infection." I said, "Go to the doctor." He goes to the doctor. Does he show up with his wallet? No, but he has his iPhone. And they said, "Do you have health insurance?" And he said, "Yeah, actually, I have the card." They said, "Fine." So he showed them, and therefore he didn't have to leave the doctor's office.
Sorry, he did it in the cloud?
That's a very good question. I'm so glad you asked that. Okay, when you take a picture of it, it's stored on a local device. It's also saved in the cloud. If you choose, when you sign on, that you want a Dropbox account, free, then it'll integrate, but you don't have to. So what he had is as you see, it says passport number, expiration date. You're actually typing that stuff in, and then you're taking a picture. And then if you choose Dropbox, it's all stored in the cloud as well. So believe it or not, totally saved us. So I say enter everything from that. But here's the thing. That was a front and back meeting of his health insurance card. What do you do with that 30-page will? So this is where Erin's going to come in and show you guys it's free here. And that's scanning. And how do you, with this little thing, scan? You don't.
Can you also access do this on your computer and have it?
I'm glad you asked that. It's called a web app, and that we wanted to do something different, so we built a mobile app. What you're talking about means we would take this platform and create it just from your computer, and we ran out of money. So that is definitely where we should have started. It was our mistake.
Can I access the Dropbox from my computer?
Yes, and that's the beauty. So what I would do, if you don't have the iPhone, take my list.
I do, but I also.
Okay, yeah.
It's easier to type on.
Exactly. So it's not going to be stored on your local device, but integrate the two and then start saving it. Because the beauty is that once you put the $4.99 here, it'll set up folders for you in the computer. So, and remember all the features that you guys see and you go, why didn't she sync it with my Outlook contacts and this and that? A typical app costs between $100,000 and $250,000 to build. If you want to build one that syncs with this and that and your calendar and everything else, we would have had to raise probably $1 million to do it. So don't get mad at us when you use it. So far, it costs you $4.95. Any suggestions, please send them our way. We want to hear them. As a matter of fact, I met a woman today at the Equinox who's going to be doing a write-up of us. So please send any suggestions to us. But if you're going to review us in the App Store, only give us 5 stars. Yeah.
I just have a follow-up question. So we can't do this on our main computer, but if we have some of these documents already stored,
Good.
can we send them to the
Yep.
device?
Well, you can send them to Dropbox, and then they're going to be available on your device. So yeah, you're absolutely right.
And by virtue, and I feel stupid because I have both an iPad and an iPhone, and I don't know how to use the cloud. Do I automatically have that capability?
Yes.
Because I have these devices?
Yeah, you don't even need your devices to get access to the cloud, but because you have both devices, it's going to be easier to access the cloud through Dropbox, because this was built to interface. The people who stole the money from us are the ones who actually told us to use Dropbox, because we were going to buy cloud space, but then we'd have to worry about security. And we were like, no, let's use something that is already secure, and they gave us access to it. Yeah.
Is Dropbox like a website?
Dropbox.com. I mean, that's it. Isn't that crazy? It's like, I was like, wow, is it really that easy? It is. It is crazy easy.
How does Dropbox make it fun?
Because they hope that you love it so much that you're going to go to that and stuff. Yeah, that's how they make the money. And yeah.
I just want to confirm, so you're saying you can enter it on your laptop, send it to Dropbox, send it to so
let's say that, for example, you have to set, you don't have to, but okay, you set up, let's say simultaneously, a Dropbox account and your iPhone. The iPhone, Diva Docs will actually set up folders in Dropbox, and it'll say Diva Essentials, Diva Driver, Diva Destination. So now, when you take the documents maybe that you've already scanned, you literally click and drag them and you can put just copies there. You don't have to put the originals. Now, when you open up Diva Essentials and say, I want to look at a copy of my will, click on it. And from there, it's an image that you can send to your attorney if you want to change something. Oh, you want a copy of that? Right from your fingertips. The hardest part, though, is the scanning. So that's why I asked Erin to do this, because I have a feeder and all that. It's so easy. But I have an office, so the library here has great resources. So you want to talk about?
Yes, so I was just going to mention specifically the resources that the library has. So this would be for someone who has a Dropbox account but does not or doesn't want to use their mobile device to take photos of the documents. And for that, we have 3 options. The first is down in our power library downstairs. That's the room with all the computers. We have several flatbed scanners. You can set yourself up at one of the computers. You can use the flatbed scanner, and that's the one that's like the old school. You open it up, you put the document down, face down, you put it down, and you scan it. But if you have a 30-page will, that's going to take you all day. So then what I recommend you do is you go to our Xerox machine, which is down there as well, and you can do scan to email. And it just goes right through the feeder in about 7 seconds. A 30-page will just be emailed to your account. And there's a librarian staff member down there who is happy to help you with either of those things. There's a third option as well. Upstairs we have a kick scanner, and this is good for things that are a strange size that you want to scan in. And you just place the document on the scanner bed, and then you press a button and it takes a picture of it, and then you have two options. You can either email it to yourself, or if you have a thumb drive, you can stick your thumb drive right in the machine and it will scan it onto your thumb drive. So those are some of the different options. Depending on what you want to scan, one is better than the other generally, like oddly shaped things or something that's 8.5 by 11, but there's many pages of it. But we do offer those services, so you don't need to worry if you don't have a mobile device or don't know how to use the scanners. So.
And that's like incredible. I mean, to have a library like this with hands-on people who can share how to do this. The first time you do it, you're going to say, is it really that easy? I mean, it's that easy. I am not a tech person, and I'm so thankful I have people in my office who are, and I was like, oh, I can even do this. So my next mission for New Year's, because we're going to do New Year's resolution, is to do all my mother's documents in the cloud. Right now, she has a perfectly neat filing cabinet with everything in it, but, you know, the house burns down, guess what? It's all gone. You know, some of the things you need original. So I personally encourage you to have both. Not for the 7 years tax returns and things, forget it. But, you know, you need originals of birth certificates and things with race. So not everything in a copy format will be as helpful, but why not have both? It's an educational process too, because remember, first step is you know, to find it. The second step, don't skip, which is the learn it part, which means, God, what is this? If you don't know what it is, and let's say it falls in the category of taxes. Maybe you own a rental property and it's in an LLC. And you say, oh, you know, we've been renting that place out in Boston for years. And I don't know anything about it. What we recommend, and I'll tell you how our reward system, back to Foursquare, works. What we recommend is you actually set up a time with your accountant and say, you know what? I've actually never met you before. Somebody didn't say that. Not to me. Anyway. You know, never. Why don't we sit down and could you explain to me? We, you know, collect this in rent and pay this in commission and insurance, and this money comes, but I never see the money. Where's it going? You know, why is the tax different than the cash flow? So you guys already, many of you have a team of advisors. You have lawyers who did your tax, your wills and estate planning documents. Go and use this. And I say to women, men are not afraid of, that's a dumb question. Women shouldn't be either. I mean, you cannot believe, men will ask me anything because they're not insecure about what they don't know. Women are insecure that it's going to reveal that they don't know certain information, and that's not healthy. It's your money, it's your assets, you're paying these advisors. If they're your investment manager, set up a schedule to meet with them so you understand. I had a client who, you know, inherited a significant amount of money. She didn't realize her husband had, you know, margined the majority of the account. She didn't know what a margin loan was. So we sat down and walked her through, and yes, the husband was there. It was one of those moments you had to do it because he was at the max, actually. But, you know, getting back to the scavenger hunt, the first step is trying to just dump your wallet out. And can you imagine if you're, and this, we've all, you know, traveled and know people, my purse was just stolen in the subway. Well, guess what? Calling Amex, you have a picture, you have a card number, you have everything right there on your phone to be able to use it. I'll tell you, it's dangerous for younger kids because then they're ordering stuff online and they'd have to go find their wallet, but instead they pull their phone out and then they can charge whatever.
What if your phone is in your purse system?
Yeah, obviously that's going to be. That's a very good question, and that you just hit the nail on the head. Especially if you have internet, there's cyber cafes almost anywhere in the world. You could be in the remotest part of India and you're going to find a cyber cafe. What you've opted to do, and it's your option, is to save to Dropbox. So you would actually go to Dropbox. Had you done your, I don't want to say homework because I don't want to make this out bad. All of that information is going to be accessible without your iPhone. So anywhere in the world, you're going to have access to that as long as you can get an internet connection to Dropbox.
So each one of these things has a password so that the person who's stolen your
Yep. And the way we built this, because I'm really, obviously we're all hypersensitive about security, it gives you in any 24-hour period 3 times to make a mistake. So if you enter, you left your phone, it times out. You should all, if you guys don't have security on your phone already, go to settings and time out your phone, okay, or your iPad. That's your first level of security. So all you have to do is go into the phone, that little gray area that's called settings, and go into a security setting. I think it's timing or time lapse. Set that. Then the second part is the phone itself, or the app itself will time out as well. Probably too often and you're going to be mad, but we timed it out. The next is if someone finds it and tries to, your phone is open, which is step 1, they have to get through your phone password, they're going to enter it. If they try 3 times and fail, it's 24 hours. If they keep trying, it wipes everything. So it actually gives very safe and secure. Now here's the other thing, your phone rings while you are entering information, it's going to drive you crazy. It will knock you out. Because we don't want you guys to forget that you were working on Diva Docs and then you got distracted and you didn't log out of it. Because once you log out, then you have to re-enter your password. So you're going to have to enter when you're entering your information, you're going to have to enter your password, more times than you'd like, but that's, just remember, it's security.
You were at, say, here at the library looking on your cloud, on the Dropbox, and you're viewing personal information. Can anyone, do you worry about security?
Here at the library?
Yes,
that's an Erin question.
Any place but your own house where you know it's secure.
What I would say, at least my understanding, is if you're, and this is a perfect example, if you're on, sometimes if you're in the airport and you can grab, not Boeing, a lot of those are secure, but you grab someone else's. You're in a Starbucks and there's that free connection. Don't ever use that free connection because that's the one people can get at. If it's password protected, then you're okay. So that's home, or maybe you're at your sister's house and she gives you password, you're fine. If you're using your 3G mobile connection, that's also fine. Here at the library, literally someone could be behind you and read it. That's a problem. It's kind of like if you opened up your passport or your wallet and were writing things down. But beyond that, you have to ask Erin. I don't know what their local... Like I said, I'm more worried about you guys not having enough life insurance on your husbands than I am about security. But there are things. I think there's a couple of companies that I think it's called like identity theft or something like that. Somebody really is worried, but okay, so that's the easiest way. This is kind of fun. What will a spoonful of Diva do for you? I know we're not supposed to use Disney things, and my daughter got yelled at for it and everything, but the idea is just getting organized and having, a spoonful will do for you. So the app, this is what we did. In addition to having, this is kind of unique in this business, and part is because we have this fabulous app developer, and I said, okay, people may not get how this really works, even though it's so simple and so intuitive. Not everybody's tech savvy. I'm not. So what we did is we created a website, not the Diva CFO, which is the knowledge-based website. There's an app-based website called divadocsapp.com. Don't get all excited that this is the place you can enter all your information. It's not. It's to explain to you and give you video tutorials. And I would highly encourage, if anyone's interested in using it and doesn't really, they're kind of on the fence, and they don't want to spend that $4.99 for it until they learn it, go to the video tutorials. You'll hear Colleen, who's our app developer. We actually just did a roundtable in town about people wanting to build apps. She's a really cool person. And so she did, step by step, what's the security? How do I enter it? How do I push this button? It was so painstaking for her. I had no idea she was going to do this level of depth. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Is that only available on the phone or on the iPad?
No, that's available. As a matter of fact, Diva CFO and divadocsapp.com are actually better viewed through the through your just laptop or desktop. We're talking about actually taking those websites and making a mobile app version of it. That's not an app. It's all tech stuff I don't even understand. But this is better viewed. As a matter of fact, Diva CFO is much better viewed on a full screen. Or your iPad, you can view it on your iPhone, but it gets a little too much. So the video tutorials you'll love. The other thing we did, which is kind of fun, and if you ask me, it's crazy. Not only do we pay for all this, and we pay her, but we're giving stuff away. Because my daughter said that's how you drive people to your website. Because we just want to save the world's women. So we have a variety of really fabulous women, and I should say once a week, and any of you who are entrepreneurs can answer our questions and be promoted on it. Once a week, we actually feature Diva entrepreneurs. So we have women from all over who are answering 5 questions about their life. We also have these giveaways. So many times the people, like we did Gina's Zangrillo, we profiled Gina, and Gina gave us this $195 bracelet to give away because we're trying to spread the word, and there's lots of people across the country who search for signing up for free giveaways, and we're hoping that in their search to get a free giveaway that they're actually going to learn something and find themselves to our website. So this was just a fabulous bracelet. It's gone. A woman in Stanford actually won it. It's fabulous. This month is thanks to Joan Joella here in town, a wearing blender, you know, like the Cadillac of blenders. I don't know how. I mean, can you imagine shipping that thing? I hope some local wins it because it's just going to kill us in postage. But that's it. So if you sign up for our newsletter, you're automatically entered to win one of our amazingly fabulous prizes, and one will be an iPad soon. So I can't even believe we're doing that, but we are. So anyway, I'm exactly on time. It's 8 o'clock, but I am happy to entertain any questions or not. So yes.
So how are you going to make money?
Oh, good question. That's what everybody asks. We're now putting together a board of advisors for that very reason. Of people who I know and respect in the financial world. When clients come to me, they want my financial planning is kind of a weird thing. It all starts with organization and goals, but eventually you do have to implement. So eventually you do have to invest your money. Eventually you do have to maybe buy some insurance. And so what we're trying to do is put together what the best practices are. So is it Vanguard? Is it E-Trade? We don't know yet, but fingers crossed Sandy Weil's daughter, who's now stepping down as the CEO of NFP, is going to help us. We actually have a woman from MSNBC. We've got Stephen Roach, who's the chief economist, or was until recently at Morgan Stanley, has 6 daughters. He took a look at this. He's like, oh my God, this is fabulous. I need it for everybody. So what we're going to eventually do is kind of a soft advertising or anything from that to selling it to city women. And you guys just know there's nothing being sold right now. Eventually, whoever we sell it to, in our dream of selling it, may gear you towards their products, but you can always opt out. We don't, again, sell the website. So right now, it's kind of just a fun thing for me to do with my daughter. It's a very expensive fun thing for me to do with my daughter. Well, thank you all. I really appreciate you coming and hearing about it. We had a fabulous event at the Red Door where there were massages and all kinds of facials, but I had none of that to offer you except this fabulous, fabulous library. So, thank you.